and welcome to another evening of frank conversation here on Hard Copy, coming to you from our studios in Abuja. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf. A few days ago, the National Security Advisor, Mr. Nuhu Ribadu, led a delegation of ministers and security chiefs to the Niger Delta region. A huge part of their mandate, according to them, is to ensure that the people of the Niger Delta live in peace and to ensure that the installations bearing Nigeria's precious light sweet crude are kept intact. The Niger Delta region for many years has been the goose that lays Nigeria's golden egg. But unrest from many years of neglect of the people and the environment of the region has made it difficult to harness the great resources of the region, a problem which an amnesty program and a development commission were able to solve to an extent. Today, the problem of meeting the nation's OPEC quota is back, but this time not just because of restiveness, which still troubles the region from time to time, but because of systemic oil theft, which many now say is syndicated. Is it possible that a private security firm whose contract was recently renewed has the capacity to help Nigeria up her crude oil production once again and increase the nation's foreign exchange earnings? Mr. Kachikwu was the presidential candidate of the African Democratic Congress in the just concluded 2023 general elections. He's been speaking on the need to secure the pipelines and clamp down on oil thieves in the Niger Delta. He's our guest tonight on Hard Copy. Mr. Kachikwu, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Well, you've been speaking very vociferously, I'd say, on the issues of the Niger Delta region, especially on the need for the federal government to clamp down on oil thieves. Is there a reason why you're focused on this?
Well, I got into this in recent times, I would say by accident. Sometime last month, there was the case of MT Pretzel that came to my attention when Tantita, security company, intercepted that vessel. And there was a lot of back and forth in the media about the contents of the vessel and if they were on a legal voyage. And it aroused my suspicion, and delving deeper into the issue, I realized that there was a seeming cover-up. Eventually, 2, 3, or 4 days later, the vessel was released. Now, this vessel was released even though the papers were suspicious. They had different sets of papers that said, one said it was going from Lagos to the Delta, one said it was going from Delta to Lagos. The captain, upon being interrogated by Tantita and the army, said they were going to Bonny. So it was very, very suspicious. And the company that owned the vessel, some company called Slok Nigeria Limited, when you looked into the whole story and the way the Navy tried to defend that voyage, led me to look deeper into what had been happening in the last 1 year, and I was heartbroken.
When you say you look deeper, what did you do?
I said, going through a lot of the newspaper reports, I watched a documentary done by Channels, incidentally, about a year ago. I said, saying that there were a lot of reports in the last 1 year about the activities of the oil thieves, the activities of the Navy, of Tantita, NNPCL, what the last government tried to do in fighting this. A lot of people might not know that President Buhari, in the twilight of his administration, he realized that this was his biggest challenge. And he went and got a Tom Polo, who was wanted by the federal government, appealed to him to come and help them solve this problem. That's how Tantita became involved in this. And from all the reports, we see that their fortunes, the fortunes of NNPCL, improved. But every day we also hear that when there's an interception or an impoundment done, that very soon we hear that those vessels are released. There's no real prosecution. And then, I began to speak about this, advocate that we need to go beyond just making pronouncements in the media. We need to go after the real people behind this.
So why do you think that this private security firm can be trusted? And why do you think that they will succeed where our military has failed?
Okay, well, the biggest challenge our military has had is that in the last 40 plus years of oil theft, the Nigerian military has been pivotal to what's been going on there. Their mandate is to secure our territorial waters. their mandate is to secure oil and gas facilities, but they have failed in that totally. So when a government goes to hire private contractors, it speaks volumes about the capability of its military. Now, what has happened in the last 1 year is the fact that you have a private contractor or some private contractors who have done what the military was unable to do. But let me also say this. The private contractors are working hand in hand with a combined military team. So you have military team assigned to them, and you have the military who are posted in different locations. Take October last year. NNPC announced 4 kilometers of an illegal pipeline from Forcados all the way to the high sea in full view of the Nigerian Navy, Nigerian military. How did that happen? That pipeline for 7 years, they had been siphoning oil. They cannot quantify how much oil had gone through that pipeline. 10 days later, same Forcados line, they discovered another pipeline right behind a military checkpoint, a naval checkpoint, just right behind it. Tantita discovered another pipeline. Now, what will surprise you is that when these discoveries are made, there are no significant arrests that go with these discoveries. You cannot run a 4-kilometer pipeline. It will cost you millions of dollars. Who funded it? Who are the people behind it? We don't hear anything about this. Last year, a vessel owned by Sterling Global was arrested for carrying stolen crude. That matter ended with the former NSA. No arrest, no prosecution till today. This is the real problem. We arrest these small boys who use canoes and what have you and jerry cans, but the real big criminals are not arrested. Let me tell you something else that will surprise you. In my investigation, I now realize that beyond what is going on, the ship to ship and the barge to ship and what have you, that the biggest issue we are having is the fact that the IOCs and the marginal field operators are all in the business of declaring their production. So what did they do? They are in cahoots with people in NNPC and NUPRC and what have you, and they allow them. So if they declare that they are producing 400,000 barrels a day, they probably do 3 times that volume. They carry out that oil and sell in the black market. This has been going on for decades. This is the biggest issue. So Nigerian government is not in any way in control of what is happening. The Niger Delta is the largest crime scene in the history of the world. No control whatsoever.
How come it is just about now that we're beginning to know these things? Tantita once had this, contract. We didn't make this level of discovery. Why is it now that, all of this is coming to light? Do you think that some politics is going awry and that's the reason why we're beginning to see this level of discovery?
I like your question. It's a very good question. Actually, I believe that Tantita's contract started in the last 1 year. Prior to this, there was a contract with Ocean and Marine Services.
Yes, owned by Captain Holster.
Owned by Captain Holster. They were the people who had a contract to protect our pipelines, then not Tantita. But I know that that a company associated with Tom Polo, they were involved with NIMASA, also doing something similar to this. Let me tell you one of the major discoveries they made that a lot of people didn't notice then. They blockaded LNG. Why? They discovered that since LNG started, in the MOU they signed with the government, they were supposed to be paying some amount of money to Nigerian government, which they were not paying. And they were in court. And knowing how they were manipulating the court system, LNG didn't care. They knew that case would be in court for decades. And they just went there. And then the DG of NIMASA said, no, we're not going to do this. We'll enforce this. When they had tried to enforce this, Macron, Obama, Cameron, the presidents of all these countries put a lot of pressure on President Jonathan and said, you have to stop these people from blockading LNG, blah, 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 and what have you. President Jonathan put his foot down and said, I'll look at the laws of my country and we'll come up with a solution. The Attorney General looked at it and found that that LNG was flouting our regulation. Guess what happened?
LNG is owned by Nigeria.
LNG is owned partly by Nigeria and some of these majors. And guess what? At that time, they paid over $100 million to the Nigerian government. Now, you know what the Nigerian government did that was annoying? They said to solve the problem peaceably, that they should forget the back payment and they should just go with what in the last 1 year. So they paid $100 million. Since then, LNG, every week, pays an average of $12 million to the Nigerian government because of the company linked to Tompolo since that time till today. So what are the antecedents of this company? A company that does not look back, that is patriotic, that will defend their position, defend the position of Nigeria, no matter whose ox is God.
So you will trust this company over the country's military?
I will trust this company over the Nigerian Navy, over the Army, over the NCDC. I will trust this company, not just this company. I think there are about 3 or 4 companies involved in this process now. And the fact, I'm now speaking based on what NNPC has put out there, that in the last 1 year, they have had an uptick in production. And in the last 1 year, they've made a lot of significant arrests. That in the last 1 year, they've been able to raise up production in areas that were there was absolutely no production. Based on that alone, I will say I will trust this company above the Nigerian Navy at this point.
No, I'm looking at some of the figures for our crude oil production. It really went down in April. January this year was okay, but in April this year, shortly after the elections, we were producing less than 1 million barrels per day. It started ramping up a bit, I think, in April, May, June. But July, we saw a real big dip. One will have to ask, knowing, because we've been told that the contract of this particular company was renewed. It meant that they had it before. So the question is, how can we explain these dips that we've seen over the years and these new sudden discoveries that we're seeing right now?
Okay, good question. Like again, I'll say, Tantita's contract started a year ago. Prior to this, I don't know about any contract that Tantita had for protecting our pipelines. Now, you mentioned something very important, that there was a dip after the elections. And why is this? That's a very, very good question. A lot of these people believe that President Buhari went all out. President Buhari and the management of NNPCL, they went all out and said, anything, do anything, whatever it takes, do anything and put a stop to this. They catch a vessel.
Prior to the elections?
In the last 1 year.
Okay.
They catch a vessel, they will destroy the vessel immediately. They will do anything whatsoever. There are those who believe that with the advent of a new government, that energy that President Buhari had will then go, and these people became emboldened. You have a situation where a new government came in, people were being fired. The people behind these oil thefts are some of the richest people in Nigeria, influential in the corridors of power, and who are now throwing their weights around to see how they can take on NNPCL. And all of a sudden, if you notice in the last month, 2 months, 3 months, all you are saying is people are going after NNPCL, remove the GMD or scrap Tantita contract. And what have you? A lot of something that is clearly sponsored. Why? It's a new government. They want them to look the other way. But I was happy to see that President Tinubu ignored this, gave the NSA's marching orders. We're not going to slow down. We'll continue, we'll up the ante, and we'll go after these people, which is why we saw the visit by the NSA to that region in company of ministers and some of the service chiefs.
Can I ask, because you have said that people are being sponsored, what if people point fingers at you and say, oh, you two, you're being sponsored? This is something you're speaking up on behalf of Tantita?
Well, I will say this, that I've been speaking about this. I said speaking again in recent times, but if anybody goes through the records, I've been speaking about this almost 7-8 years. It's been a major topic for me. When Desiani was Minister of Petroleum, I had put together a consortium on this issue. I had brought in the leading firm in pipeline protection in the world, put together a consortium to say this must be fought. Unfortunately, that ended with that government. So I've been speaking about this because it's a major problem for Nigeria. But what happens in situations like this is because people feel that these people are too powerful. All you hear every day is, be careful, be careful. You need to slow down, be careful. You need to slow down, be careful, be careful. But I said to people, I said to myself, post-elections, I'm doing advocacy in 3 areas: pipeline issues and oil theft issues, agriculture, and education. Advocacy in those 3 areas. I believe that Nigeria is on the verge of a major catastrophe if we don't do something about our situation very soon.
Okay, let me ask you this, because part of the reason why people think that engaging the company belonging to a former Niger Delta militant is also to ensure that, not just that they have jobs, but that they are also, useful to the country, and that they have the knowledge of the Niger Delta. They are just in perfect position to be able to ensure that, the nation's resources are protected. But some people say it hasn't captured everybody there. So on the one hand, you give a contract to somebody, and then the rest of the people, other militants who were also there about that same time, who were in the agitation together, are looking on, and you don't look after them. Don't you think that they will be capable of sabotaging whatever effort it is that their comrade could be putting up?
I'm happy you asked this question. It's a very brilliant question. So, pipeline protection contract is not a contract given to the boys. It's a serious contract that affects the economy of our country. It's not something you do to say, let's make the boys happy. So, if you understand the workings of the oil theft going on there, for years you've had people, like I said, the Navy and all these people who are supposed to protect the oil facilities. And then when someone wants to carry a vessel loaded with crude oil, and the guy who is there supposed to protect and make sure that does not happen takes money and looks the other way, you have a major problem. That's what's been going on there. So the Nigerian government looked at all those in that area and said, we'll go with these people. We hope that these people are trustworthy. We hope that these people will look beyond the bribe and offerings made to them and defend the honor of Nigeria. And that's what they say has been happening. So the government has given this contract to a company. And people keep on speaking like the Governor Fubara said the other day, how can you give the contract to one individual? No, the contract was given to a corporate organization who government is holding responsible. Now, not only one corporate organization, I believe they gave it to 3 or 4 organizations. But there's one organization that has been in the news, Tantita. They are in the news, and depending on who you are speaking to, they are the good guys or the bad guys. They are the good guys if you are speaking to the government officials and what have you, based on the discoveries and the arrests and what have you. They are the bad guys when you talk about those people who have been affected by the arrests that they have made. So when I speak about this whole campaign against them, against government, and that is why you have a situation where you have people who manage like the NNPC and what have you, knowing that these guys are so powerful to go after them because they are saying that we will not allow this anymore. We should all speak up.
Yeah, the question is, you've said that it's not a job for the boys, it's a serious contract. There are many people who can be very serious about this. Is there a reason why there ought to be? Well, you've also said there are 3 to 4 companies, but the only one we hear is Tantita. That's the only one I know as well. That's the only one almost everyone in the media.
There are actually 3 companies.
No, as well.
There are actually 3 companies who this contract was awarded to 3 companies. We hear about Tantita because a lot of the arrests that have been made were made by Tantita, but there are 3 companies. This contract was awarded to about 3 or 4 companies.
Because some people will say, I'm looking at the figures from 2018, 2019, when our crude oil production really ramped up. That's when another company was involved, not when Tantita was involved. And so they're wondering, or do you think it's about what the areas that they have been given? Yeah. Maybe their area is the one that is most disturbed, and that's the reason why maybe it's the hottest part of the battle.
No, what I think is happening is that you have a situation where people have become emboldened as things have gotten worse. I believe that government has got too much on their plate to handle. People became emboldened, became a bazaar, and everyone wanted to get into the fray until, like I said, former President Buhari said, enough of this, we'll do something to stop this, right? And again, judging by NNPCL, they are the client, they are the victim. Judging by what they are saying, they've said that we are having a major improvement. That the highest production they had in recent times was during COVID period when there was a shutdown. Everybody was at home. People were scared. That's when they had the highest uptick. And that after the COVID period, they had a huge decline before they started this contract sometime last year, and it increased. So right now, as at this time last year, they are talking about a loss of close to 4.9 million barrels. According to NNPCL, they are down to about 1.4 million barrels weekly. That's significant if you're going by their numbers. Again, what does that figure represent? We're talking about close to 62 billion naira monthly. 62 billion naira monthly. I say look at the figures, track the figures, track that money. Last month, the CBN released a statement saying that Cameroon, Ghana, after the US, some of the highest inflows into Nigeria were coming from those two countries. Why? And they flagged them. Why? The major hub of illegal bunkering activities, major financial hub. So transactions are done there, they pay these people, the money comes in here. So the CBN should have gone beyond that. Which accounts did that money go into? Who are the people? What we should talk about, the people who are behind this.
Do you think there is a will? Do you sense a will right now to bring these people to book?
I am hoping that a president who is started as a president that doesn't have a godfather, the first president who can say does not have a godfather, does not have anyone who can see that sponsored him. He owes nobody. He owes Nigerian people. He owes it to himself to write his name in history. That he should have the willpower to go after these people. If he fails to do that, he will have a major crisis on his hands.
Have you fully decompressed from the elections? Absolutely
not. I think that Nigeria just compresses you. Every day when you follow the news, you engage with people. There's a lot, and sometimes I feel like I'm losing it, You cannot help but see that people are suffering all around you, and you cannot be happy when you see that your neighbor is suffering. There's so much suffering and neglect out there, and you think about what can you do? How much can you speak? What efforts can you make? How can you galvanize people towards a significant effort? And what have you? And I'm doing my best in my own corner to see what I can do. I refuse to be like a lot of people who've run for office and who've just gone into their private spaces. I believe that the greatest office in Nigeria, not the office of president, is the office of Nigerian citizen. I am sitting in that office and I'm making demands. I am speaking. I'm asking questions. I am informing people and educating people.
You're not in court, are you?
No, I'm not in court.
Are you looking forward to the judgment come September the 16th?
I'll give you a very honest answer. I believe that our problems are beyond the court processes. Just like I didn't believe that INEC will give us credible elections going by the antecedent before the elections. I believe that a country where most people are written off the judiciary, hoping that the judiciary will do anything, is just a pipe dream. I believe that the fact that the PDP, Labour, and parties like mine could not come together before the elections to put up a fight against APC, I believe the elections were lost before the elections. I see those parties trying to come together now, and I believe they're coming together when it's too late. They put ego before the Nigerian people. Now, going to the courts, I looked at the numbers. I'm trying to interrogate the numbers, and what I see is a situation where the four major parties all read in their domains of strength. And so I believe that anybody who comes to equity must come to equity with clean hands. At this point, the only people with clean hands are the Nigerian people, and may God help us all.
Mr. Dumebu Kachikwu, thank you so much for coming on Hard Copy.
Thanks for having me.
Well, that's the program tonight, but it's never over until we hear from you. What are your thoughts on crude oil theft in the Niger Delta region? Do share them with us using the handles showing on your screen. Thank you for watching. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf. Good night.